Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Clark, and this is my husband, Dan Clark, and we're with X Worldwide Truth Seekers. That is my website. No, my website's actually angelasinspirations.com. So anyway, we're interviewing today, again, for the second time. This is episode 2 with Sara Ahrenholtz. And so she is a former Worldwide Church of God attender. Sara began attending the Worldwide Church of God with her mother beginning at age 5. She actually grew up on a farm in Iowa, and then actually, I can't believe it, but her mother drove them every week to the Sabbath in Nebraska, which is about an hour to an hour and a half away, where she began attending Worldwide Church of God with her mother, and again at age 5. Her father never attended the church. Sara had 2 older siblings who also attended. They also actually got to keep Christmas and whatnot before they got stuck into this whole thing. The pastor at that time was Mr. Swaggerty. Sara is the mother of a beautiful daughter, Isabella, now an adult, currently lives in Oregon. Today, Sara is going to focus on medical neglect, which we actually attempted to do last time, but we didn't get that far. And so it's a medical neglect due to improper care. And Sara will be sharing just what she experienced and or witnessed, and I will too, in the Worldwide Church of God. Again, I believe that the first step, guys, towards our healing is awareness. So awareness is key. So again, let's get going on this. Okay, welcome, Sara, once again. Thank you for being on with us.
Thank you.
I got a question. So how long were you out before COVID came?
Oh, so I left maybe when I was 15, and let's see, it's 2024, and that was 2020. So I was, the beginning of my 40s there.
So see, that shows the importance of what you guys are talking about right now.
Yeah.
Because that reactivated the subconscious mind and all that guilt you had when that came out. It re-triggered.
That's where it all started, and I got re-triggered.
Relationship, I'm doing something wrong. Right. And she thought she was going to die because of Herbert W. Armstrong's training.
Right.
Teaching.
Oh, it was so bad. It was so intense. I luckily, this is actually a really good one, which I was going to wait, but you know what? It came up. I have this app. It's called Insighttimer. It's wonderful. It's free as well. It's called Insighttimer, and it has meditations. The tapping that we were talking about, I think you've done yep. You can look that up. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll search. I have something specific. So what I did is I searched surgery, and there were people telling me, you got a great doctor. Your surgery is going to go great. It's going to be so successful. And I had to listen to those just over and over to just calm myself before and let myself know I was safe. It was okay. This was needed because it was horrible. And then I was a caregiver, and I got injured 9/24/2021. I caught a lady in the shower, and she slipped and fell. Oh. So I had that going on I had the stomach first, and then that happened. Oh, and then I couldn't work. So that caused an enormous amount of stress. I didn't know how I was going to provide for me and my daughter. I was still smoking cigarettes at the time. So they put me on varenicline to get off. And I ended up going into anaphylactic shock, and I had seizures for 2 days. That is what completely triggered and changed me. And whatever wall I had built, that traumatic experience crumbled it down. And all of my trauma I'd been through, like in my past, I was reliving it, nightmares just every night over and over. I couldn't sleep. And I thought, oh my God, I am in trouble. And I asked my primary care after that. I think it was the first, because I went after that to check in with her. And I said, I think I need therapy. And she sent me a referral right away. And so that is what actually triggered me finally to get therapy too. It took that because lots of people have said, I think you need therapy. And I've always just been like, I've always said, that's not happening. But I never really explained why.
Just from quitting cigarettes, Dan. I mean, I mean, I wonder if some people could get it from quitting massive amounts of coffee drinking. I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Right.
Drugs, any drugs or quitting alcohol suddenly when you've been heavy duty drinking.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, you can't do that. You
This
have
is
to,
like a sci-fi movie, horror movie.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think a lot of cults are, and I don't think you really realize it till you start speaking it out loud and talking and conversing back and forth. That's what really is like making it hit home for me, like how big this is and how serious, and that wow, this really happened to not only me, but like I think at their peak, Worldwide Church of God was over 100,000 members. How are we not talked about more?
I know it.
I know.
You realize how big that is?
How
Like,
is this? Here's a crazy question.
Worldwide too.
Is this still being taught, or is it?
Absolutely.
Oh
And
my
there's
God.
absolutely, and I don't know which one. One's stricter than the other, and I did write that down too.
I bet you the
So
Living
there's
Father.
Gerald Fleary runs the Living Church of God.
Yeah, there's the guy. Yeah.
And David Pack runs the Restored Church of God. I've seen and read horror stories on both of people that attend these or attended them and are out.
My mom goes to United Church of God. It's the main one out of Grace Community when they split, United Church of God. And that one's just like Worldwide was. My mom
can't believe people would still be in there today.
I know.
Oh, I know. It's wild. And so there's still kids dying.
Yes. And they have
and there's still adults dying too, not just kids, but to me that's
the same.
Yeah, those adults have a choice.
They do. They do.
The kids don't, and it's there's no laws protecting these children with religions, and I think it's in 46 states that, if I might be wrong, I think it was in 46 states that these kids still, like, the law can't come in and help them. They're protected. Basically, if their parents say, no, I'm their parent, I don't want them to get help, then they don't have to. Or if they're not taken and getting help and get a diagnosis, how would anybody know? Because usually it might start at a school or a doctor. That's where it's going to start, where anybody is going to get notified, CPS or anything. So these structures that they've set up protect the parents and the church from any responsibility of what they did.
It's weird. It's so behind the times. It's so weird. Like you say, you don't hear about these people dying. They're just dying behind closed doors.
Right. Hey,
they are.
Don't they have, like, at schools anymore now? I remember when our daughter, Dan's daughter, living with us, and if she got sick, she had to go to the doctor and get a note from the doctor about being sick, and before she could, I don't know, so she wouldn't be in trouble. So I wonder if that's that way everywhere now, but it didn't used to be that way, Dan. And
oh yeah, my story has that in there, and like I said, I realized, like, wow, and I'm sure mine is pretty similar to others. So I am just kind of going, what I did is I just started going down my body and, like, remembering stuff. Okay. So I started with, like, it was nightmares. I had migraines. I was like, oh my God. Yep. And there was also an incident where we were at some events. It was in the summer, and some girl threw sand at me, and it got in my eye. And I know I was bawling and crying for hours before I got taken. And I'm pretty sure my mom, so we had this Swaggerty at first, and he was really strict. And then we got Terry Johnson, and he was a little more lenient. And I think they did that on purpose. They would kind of give you a strict one, a lenient one, a strict one, and a lenient one. If you remember, they would kind of switch it up on you. So I had a lenient one at this time, and that was probably lucky. And I'm pretty sure she got permission to take me. So I did get taken. I got my eye rinsed out, washed out. And I got a patch on my eye, wore it for weeks, but I never got taken back again. And after this incident with the anaphylactic shock and that all happened, I started doing this with my phone afterwards, and my daughter caught me. And I went to the eye doctor, and the first thing he said to me, he said, "Did you have an eye injury when you were younger?" And I had to sit there and think, and I said, like, yeah. I said, I actually did. I got sand in my eye when I was younger. And he goes, wow. He's like, well, you have needed glasses since then.
Oh.
And I'm going to tell you what, I was like a kid. I just got glasses, I think in 2022. I was like this. This is how people see? Like, I literally had no idea. I have been like blind my whole life and I didn't know.
Disgusting.
It is.
Isn't that freaking disgusting?
It really, really is.
And I'm sorry. I'm going to try to stay calm, but this one is one that's really hard for me to forgive because I get so angry. This was the one that really, really was horrible. I can't remember when I got, like I said, I would get maybe a diagnosis, but I wouldn't get the treatment. I wouldn't be able to accept that. Okay. So I got diagnosed with asthma. And when I would have an asthma attack, I would just be told I was being dramatic. And I never had an albuterol inhaler. I remember one time I had an asthma attack for hours.
Oh, no.
Before I finally was taken to the ER. It was really
like you're suffocating when you don't have your inhaler. That's like you're suffocating.
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't talk because I couldn't breathe. And this was hours. This went on before I finally got taken. And when they took me, they gave me a nebulizer. They gave me a nebulizer. And I was sent home, but I once again without an inhaler.
Oh God.
Oh geez.
So I grew up my whole life just always never feeling like I could breathe.
So you were I didn't have an inhaler because the nebulizer had medicine in it, and that's why she was not allowed to have it. She had to go back home with maybe a nebulizer. Did you get to go home with a nebulizer?
No.
Oh.
What the hell?
What the hell is right?
That's when I lost it and I said, shit, excuse my language. I said, I gotta call my therapist. That was the one that really, really got me. And then I also remembered I would, and like I said, like I would just be told I was being dramatic. So I wouldn't even like tell usually when I was having one, I would just try to calm myself down. And that's how she would treat me, like I was being dramatic, but I couldn't breathe. It wasn't being dramatic. I have an inhaler now. I have to use it daily, a couple of times a day. I don't have that anymore, but I had fainting issues as well. And I remember one time I fainted and I almost bit all the way through my lip. And I remember I was just scared to even say anything because I knew I wouldn't be taken anywhere. And then, just it, like you said, you were just looked at like, oh, really? Now I have to take you to the doctor to get stitches?
Right.
Like, why are you up there fainting? What were you doing up there?
Right. That's how
I had and this happened in a room. I was by myself and I fainted and I just woke up and I was in a room, my bedroom.
What do you think? Classic fainting. What do you think?
Asthma attack, not being able to breathe.
Oh my God. You could have died.
And I had quite a few of those up in my room and I fainted. I never ever went and told anybody or got help because what were they going to do? They weren't going to take me.
No.
I wasn't going to get an inhaler.
But at least like my mother could go to those natural people that were part of the church and they would tell you things like, go get in a hot shower, take your kid, put him in a hot shower and I don't know, go buy a nebulizer. Or
I guess that's true. Yeah, no, nothing. I didn't get that. Mom didn't do that.
Like even the nebulizers, they have natural things that you can put in them that really could help you, right? But your mother was trained like you just don't want to think about sickness. And so you don't want to have to buy a nebulizer because that's going to accentuate the fact that my daughter is sick. And we don't want to focus on that because that's a sin and we've done something.
Absolutely. So if we ignore it, then it'll just go away. Maybe. I think that's what a lot of parents did. Let's just say we'll ignore it. We'll ignore this is happening
Yeah, my
And
mom
just
wasn't that
continue to
bad.
pray. You know what? I'll pray for you.
Uh-huh. Yes.
You know, I still hear that. I'll pray for you.
I
Yeah.
You know,
remember I remember having a ear infection when I was young, and it was really painful. And I
Oh.
remember we were taking the doctors, and I don't know what they gave us, penicillin or something, and it was gone. It was like the next day I was like, "Whoo, wow, that's an ear infection."
yep.
I've seen ear
I had one
infections.
of those and was not taken. I remember you just laid on that side
Uh-huh.
of that. I want to say she put some type of drop, but it wasn't like
Mhm.
from the doctor. So I
Right.
did think she tried something holistic with ear
Yeah,
infections, but
olive
once
oil.
again, we
That's what
weren't
they had
taken.
too. They were told to
Yeah.
give olive
Well,
oil down there.
here's the thought I was going to bring out. So I look at Angela's brother, and he can't hear anything.
No.
I mean, he's like, ha, 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 ha.
What?
You know, he's
What?
angry. You know what? And I would think as a mother, I would look at my child and her daughter and her other daughter. Her other daughter's got very bad hearing problems too, right?
Yeah, they all do.
And I would say, what the hell have I done? I destroyed my kid's hearing. I
Yeah.
destroyed it. It ain't coming back. I mean, this is permanent ear loss because of a simple ear infection that could be taken care of in just a couple of days with some drugs.
But you know, just have
I'm literally getting like nauseous, just hearing that and thinking that. And, you know, in her mind, she's probably said, oh, you know, they didn't have enough faith. And she's had to do some crazy talk to herself so she doesn't have to feel that guilt and shame
oh
and
yeah.
disassociated. Because you're absolutely right. How could you live with yourself?
So what were you saying in your
Well,
defense?
it's just in my mom's defense, you know, she was only what 16 years old when she got into this stupid dumb cult, and on her own because she heard Armstrong on the radio, and then they called the people to the house and had some sessions, and then next thing you know, they're talking my dad into saying that it's God's will that you move to Pasadena and work for the church. So my dad, being I think 19 by that point, probably moved to that moved to Pasadena from Sacramento. And so my mom was so young. And then what she did, as you know, cut her family off because they kept Christmas and all those things you're not allowed to do. So they just pretty well cut them off. Not completely, but they were just shunned bad because they didn't want to be harassed. So my mother, being this little young kid who wasn't even grown up herself and had kid after kid after kid after kid, she had 6 kids, you know, one up to the other. And I don't know. She just living on survival mode.
Yeah, I
You
can
know what I mean?
understand that.
So I guess I just want to say that she was never an adult to start out to make these
Yeah.
decisions. Just saying.
I just
And
saying like now, like you kind of look at the wreckage.
oh
You look at the damage
yeah,
there.
she does feel bad. She says
Does she?
she
Oh,
says I'm a bad mother. I'm a bad mother. She
but
still
she still
says,
pushes the religion.
yes, she does. She does.
I would say that too. I've recently talked to my mom about certain things, and she just said, oh, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I really, I didn't know. You know, I feel like some stuff, like could you not know, like getting put in the principal and library office, like she had to, like I said, I think these parents disassociate as much as we do.
I
Yeah,
They're
see.
brainwashed as
that
much
makes
as we
sense.
are. Not that, like I said, it condones what they allowed and did to us, but somehow it helps me to forgive and find compassion and
Yes,
try to find
I
like the
agree.
why, like
Yeah,
why did this happen to me? And
yeah.
so I don't have to blame myself. Like there was something wrong with me.
Right.
They were definitely being brainwashed
They
too.
really were. They
Good
had to
point.
be.
Good
I mean,
point.
like, you know, a family, I mean, to change subjects just a little tiny bit, a family getting together, which we'll talk next time about, guys, just in case you wonder. We're going to talk about divorce next time. Sarah's going to have a lot to say about all that. I will too. But, you know, a family's been together, they've had children, and they have a life. And then suddenly they're told you can't be married to each other anymore because you were once married and you were once married and you must split. You must go back to your mates and all this kind of crap. And they kowtown to it.
Yes.
I don't know. I guess they were so indoctrinated by that point that they'll do
They
anything.
broke up so many families.
Oh
Like I
my
said,
God.
I feel like my family already felt broken because my dad wasn't in the cult.
Yeah.
So mom was head of household, and then, you know, then you had the ones that were, you know, together, the mom and dad. Um I
talking about
lost
that.
my train of thought there. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, but that guilt shame thing that the parents have for doing
Yes.
certain things. I mean, that was a kooky one to Cowtown, to letting my family be ripped and stripped apart because these men said that the Bible's interpreted without even checking on their own, to really research it, to really pray to God about it. Just trusted these men of God who are obviously led by God and who said you have to do this, and splitting up a family.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we all put our trust and faith in our parents and our ministers. I mean, this is, your parents are supposed to provide comfort and safety, and you're like, but we weren't. I don't know the God of love. I know you don't either. That's not what we're taught. I don't know
Not what we
that.
were taught.
I only know the
Always
God
angry
to
and
fear.
jealous.
Yes. Now
I
let's
only know the God to fear. I
right.
don't know. We were not taught the love
No.
side.
My
And so I
mother,
think that's really hard for people to understand. And I know it's that is so wrong how we were taught. And, that most people are taught all those things and grace and all that others, but we just were not taught that.
no, we were not. And my
We
mother,
were taught to be scared of him.
yes,
And if we did not, keep the Sabbath, obey all the holy days, we were not going to make it to the place of safety. We weren't going to be saved. We were going to burn in the lake of fire. And they had, lesson plans and sermons, and they also had magazines, and they had The World Tomorrow. I'll never forget that. The telecast. And I'll never forget the Revelations ones. I had nightmares from that, having to watch that.
Revelations. That's a red book.
Yeah, and
the Jehovah's Witnesses have a red book too of Revelations?
No.
Yes, they do.
Oh yeah.
And
but we have the Bible story written by Basil Wolverton, who he did for Mad Magazine. I just found that out recently, but I remembered the cover and I thought, oh God, we had that book. Yes. And I saw those horrific pictures from a very young age growing up.
They had the same, Sarah, this practically the same pictures. I'm telling you, Armstrong stole that from the Jehovah's Witnesses. He did. Because they have the same scary, horrible, Armageddon, scary ass pictures with fire and brimstone and, people fearing and all these kind of faces, just like we have. And they're shocked that we had the Plain Truth magazine and, these magazines. They can't believe that we had that because they had the same kind of, stuff. And they're like, what?
Yes, right? Like, what?
I got a question.
It's eerily similar.
Yes.
Thanks to you guys, I see Petra everywhere. Everywhere there's a construction company here called
right?
Petra.
And it was Petra,
Jordan.
I'll just never forget that. That's where the place of safety was supposedly.
Where's Petra at in the world? Is it
in Jordan? Petra, Jordan was where we were.
Okay.
Are they still pushing Petra?
Oh, I bet.
God.
Yeah, they're going to go.
I bet 100% because they didn't stray from Herbert W. Armstrong's teaching. So that is what he taught.
Absolutely. So, they don't even, guess what? Do you think my parents talked about how we would get there? Or, what are the directions to get to the Jordan, I think it's near Turkey, isn't it? If I remember it. But they don't know. They don't know how to get there. My parents never had any plan on how we would drive there. How we get there or anything.
Angela, you want to know why I always got whooped? I had questions. Mom, how are we going to get there? When are we going to hear it? When are we going to get the news? How are we going to get the news?
God.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah, stop it. Stop asking so many questions.
Is that like paradise on earth, Petra?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's like
I got in so much trouble, though. I eventually just stopped asking.
Isn't that terrible?
It's not funny. It's really not. But I remember I had questions. Like I said, it wasn't the Feast of Trumpets about we were the only ones that were going to hear the trumpets. Out of everybody in the world, we're the only ones that are going to hear the trumpets. It's time to go.
So retarded. But I
don't know how we're getting there, but
I guess being a kid, you don't worry so much about where the heck it is. But I don't think we even realized that it was a whole nother freaking country.
No, I didn't care about where it was. I cared about who I was with. I was terrified to be at school, and it happened. So I suffered, and I still have that, I call it like threshold anxiety. I really suffer from just leaving the house. I have to like
Wow.
build up. Yep.
Wow.
I have social anxiety, threshold anxiety. I like, well, but after I tell about my daughter stuff, she's like, well, no wonder you're scared of the world, Mom.
Seriously. Seriously. Social anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty true. Like I said,
Yeah.
and I find a way. We have to find humor and laugh at this because it's just so crazy. If
You're
you
right.
don't,
It's crazy.
and laughter's the best medicine. So
It is, Sarah. It is. Totally.
and like I said, it's not funny. I'm very aware of that. I
I'm glad
developed
you
this
laugh.
to laugh instead of cry.
Absolutely.
You know, you kind of have to.
Yeah, you do. I mean, just the fact that we grew up feeling like everybody in the world was not one of us, and so they weren't going to make it. And so, you really shouldn't be friends with those people. I mean, the Jehovah's Witnesses have the same thing, right? So you
Mhm.
do have social anxiety naturally.
Oh,
First of all, our conversation would never make any sense to them. We have a whole nother language. They call it loaded language because we
yeah.
speak words that what are you talking about? You're going where? The Feast of Trumpets. What the heck are you talking about?
About yeah,
Clear, clean,
it really just made you so where you didn't talk. You
right,
really, it was really hard to have even a conversation with anybody in
right.
school
Wow.
about anything, because
Right.
guess what? We weren't allowed to listen to music. We weren't allowed to watch like TV, movies.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
gonna tell
yeah.
you what I grew up on.
Okay,
See if
yeah,
it's
what?
similar. Sound of Music,
Uh-huh. Say
Mary Poppins,
yeah, yeah.
Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
That's
God.
it. And then we were allowed to watch a little bit of cartoons once the TVs came in, but it was like the Flintstones, Flipper.
Whatever was on Sunday morning, because we couldn't do it Saturday.
Yeah, well, we couldn't even watch anything then. We could because
Wow.
No, you couldn't watch it. It was the Sabbath. So
no, on Sunday I was not allowed to watch all kinds of things because my parents did not like any of the cartoons because they were violent. And then of course you can't watch what was that one with the ghost the friendly ghost. Remember that one?
oh, Casper the Friendly Ghost.
We
Yep.
weren't allowed
Had a
to
ghost in
watch
the title.
that.
Couldn't watch it.
There's
Anything with witch.
nope,
So what's
Bewitched,
that really
Bewitched.
popular show with the wink wink?
Yeah, the Bewitched.
Yes, couldn't watch that.
Nope,
None of that. Couldn't watch it. How I was able, I'm really blessed actually. My aunt that passed away, she would record stuff on VHSs. And so I was able to see like a few stuff that way. But other than that, I wouldn't have known. And music, was really like limited. And I remember, you like to learn a song, you listen to it over and over, right? That's how you learn the
right,
lyrics.
yeah.
And I remember, and I don't even know how I got these like cassette tapes, but I remember my mom took away Lionel Richie, Dancing on the Ceiling, and La Bamba. Like I was just listening to it too much and becoming obsessed. But I just liked the song and the beat, and I was dancing. Like I wasn't.
Worldly.
No way was I like. I was being a kid.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
he's joking. He's joking.
I'm joking.
I
can't even hear you.
You're
What
being
she's
worldly.
saying.
We got to get a hold of her.
Yeah.
We got to get the pad out. It's time.
Yeah, I was being too worldly. You're absolutely right. Stop
Yeah,
having
that's right.
fun,
That's right.
and
Yeah, my dad, I remember my dad, I was let's see, how old was I? I was 13 because, well, let's see now. Yeah, 13, 14. And my dad had a stereo cabinet in this other room that we didn't go in much. It was like a separate family living room. And we stayed in the family room and these doors shut. So I went in there by myself, put a record in there that I bought at the dime store. And it was Mike Curb Congregation, very old. Probably most people don't even know. But it had this song in there that still's kind of known. It's Come Together. So it goes, come together right now.
Right
Oh,
now.
and so I was
Yeah.
listening to that whole album, and my dad's like, you can't listen to that. You can't listen to that. I'm like, Dad, why not? And I said, there's nothing wrong with the words or any such thing. And so he said, okay, I'll come in there and I'll listen with you. So he came in there and laid down on the carpet and listened to the whole album. And he goes, all right, I approve, because there wasn't nothing he could complain about. So I got to listen to that album, and then my parents got divorced, a few years later.
But that's just another point of like our gaps, our connections, being able to connect. and I still have that catch up. I'm sure you feel like that.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there's just so many songs, movies, TV shows. Like
But you don't know the
and
name.
yeah, it's like those movies where you see somebody, whatever, they're gone for 20 years, and then they come back. That's how it feels. Like you literally you're missing out on all that
Right.
part
And
of
I
life.
don't know about you, but do you remember the names of artist names or their music album
No, and
titles,
that's why sometimes I
song
will know
titles?
the song and I'll never know the artist name. And
No.
people are always like, how do
What?
you not know who
Right.
sings that? How do you
Seriously.
not know who sings
Yeah.
that? Because I grew up in a cult. That's
That's
why.
right. Because we were not allowed to really like it or be part of its worldly,
Really listen
right?
to it. Yep. If you did hear it, it was probably in a restaurant or on
Right.
accident.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't because it was playing in your car.
No, no, not
No,
at all. So we're just
no.
kind of, Dan has the same problem, don't you, honey? Same thing, exactly.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of embarrassing because I'm a musician, and so that's kind of a shame for me that people mention certain things. I'm like, no, sorry, I'm much better now, much better, but I
Yeah.
really had to play catch up, and I'm really still behind.
Oh,
Yeah,
we all are. I think
Yeah.
anybody that joined, we are. It's just, and
yeah,
that's where you just
Right.
feel that loneliness and that
yeah.
hopelessness and that gap.
Uh-huh.
Like
You
you
don't fit in,
don't like like when people like you can't you don't have a childhood.
right?
You
All
don't.
your childhood is all fear and trauma.
That's it, Sarah. That's it. And we don't fit in. We're freaks. We're
No,
freaks.
exactly.
We're socially
Exactly.
inept. We're not normal socially because we don't, when they talk about
Yes.
this, we shut up because we don't quite remember exactly what are they talking about. Yeah, I think maybe I know that artist, but no, who wrote that song? They'll say, I don't know. It's like I don't know. You know what I mean? It's
Well,
like,
that's what I told you. I
oh,
developed I call it like a dumb blonde mechanism.
yeah, right. But it's
So if somebody would say, they're like, how do you not know that? You've never heard of that? I would just be like,
huh?
I didn't know. And I would just literally, I'm stopping doing that because I did it my
Amen.
whole life to cover up
Yep.
what had been done.
Yes.
And another one is, so here's just a little, an example. My birthday's in December.
Ah,
And when I got home insurance recently or whatever, the guy noticed that. He goes, oh, it goes, my birthday's in December too. So he was like, all about getting gypped on the, birthday gifts and, because you're in the same month as Christmas. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I walked out of there and, my daughter didn't even catch it, because I
Oh,
had done it for so long. And I walked out of there. I go, do you see what I mean? How it's just easier to laugh and lie than say, yo, I grew up in a cult. So actually, no, I don't know.
that's right.
I don't know what it was like to receive birthday gifts or Christmas gifts. But anytime I've ever told anybody that I'm in a cult, it'll just come out. You really get that
like I don't
blank
want
tie. What somebody told me, I don't
to.
know if I know what to say either. I'm
I
sorry.
know. I know. It's terrible. And I don't want to
And so
shock
you
them.
really feel like you can't connect with anybody else
Right.
except that has been in a cult or
Yeah,
similar
it's true. It's true. It's really sad. But
situations. It is.
yeah. But I think it's getting to be where cults are not so scary of an idea as they were. So at least it's helpful. We should probably end this,
Yeah.
shouldn't we? All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us about all this incredible medical. Remember,
Yep. And I actually even still had I didn't even get to the strep throat
oh, let's finish
and
with
all
that.
that.
Let's finish
Yeah.
with
And
strep throat. Let's do that one.
so I could just tell you about the two. So I kind of went over the main ones. I also, now I don't know if they still do this anymore, but in PE, they used to take you in and they would see if you had scoliosis.
Oh yeah.
Well, I
Had it.
just
Oh.
coming out and crying, being like, I've got the scoliosis.
Oh.
And I remember I got taken to the chiropractor and it diagnosed, but I am just now starting chiropractic help for the first time in my life.
Wow.
Because by the end of the day, some days I can't even stand up straight. So it's really because I haven't taken care of myself and you just were taught not to.
Right. Ignore. Yeah.
I'm just starting to. So what happened to me was I would get strep throat. I got strep throat back to back to back. I was missing so much school. I was not getting taken. I was not getting antibiotics.
Oh,
What happened to me is I finally got taken, and that had turned into mononucleosis,
Oh
oh,
Epstein-Barr.
my gosh. Wow.
So after all this stuff happened, when I told you the anaphylactic shock, and then I just started developing all these other weird, really health issues, and I couldn't really figure out what was going on. And through testing and really me self-advocating for myself and joining groups, other things, just trying to find out what the heck is going on with me now.
Sorry.
Somebody had broached in a group saying, has anybody, so my doctor diagnosed me with fibromyalgia, and I thought, no, why? What?
I had that
I
too.
couldn't find the why. I couldn't find the why. Well, you can look this up. Mononucleosis. I didn't know this either because I never got taken back after I got diagnosed with it, mono. And I guess you have it forever. It's always in your system. And under stress, it can get reactivated all throughout your life. I had no idea. I just found this out. I literally just found this out like within this month, last month.
Do you think it could be chicken pox that also would bring it on? Because
I did have chicken pox, but what happened is I found out you can literally look up the correlation and link of Epstein-Barr virus mono reactivating and turning into fibromyalgia.
oh my
oh,
God.
geez.
Well, I've had fibromyalgia, and I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
So you might have some sickness that you had, and it might correlate with why you have that now.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, I do know one thing.
You
is that-
never know. And that's how I did it. I just kept looking up stuff like this because it just didn't make sense to me. Like
Okay.
I was fine, and then all of a sudden now it's just like my body's falling apart on me. What's going on?
Wow.
So I thought that's that's pretty big one. So those are
That's pretty
those
big
are my
deal.
main ones, but like I said, as bad as they are, in some ways they're lighthearted because a lot of people lost family members and siblings and relatives that committed suicide or didn't go get surgery or proper medical care. So I feel like, there's a war still going on within me, but things have changed. Like I'm no longer trying to destroy myself. I'm on a rescue mission now.
Thank God.
Yay.
Thank God. Good for
Our
you.
cat's having this little conniption fit because it wants to be taken care of.
I'm trying to keep it at bay.
Oh, that's really funny. He's trying to
out.
prance in front of the
I
camera.
pushed him off one time. I'm like, go, go.
Yeah.
He jumps back up. So I got my stick and I'm going like this with him, like,
It's like trying to.
so it's fighting me.
That's
It's
really
coming at
funny.
me.
Crazy.
Well, yeah. So next episode, kind of talk about, I guess, still like whatever divorce, kind of my exit, and just how it kind of felt to try to get into society after that, and whatnot. Because a lot of us still don't feel like we fit. We're still trying to.
I don't know that maybe we never will. I mean, be honest with you. I've been out 42 years. And it's getting a little bit better, but then I don't know. Do you think I'll ever be socially comfortable?
Yeah, you're getting there. It takes a while though. It takes it's relearning and learning communication.
That's what I've learned, and I've learned you cannot rush it, and healing is so linear, and try to just have compassion with yourself the best you can. Like I'm learning it, and I'll listen to even self-worth, like self-love affirmations on that website or that app, the Insighttimer. And I'll tell you what, when I first started listening to them, I almost got sick to my stomach and nauseous just by listening to those affirmations because it'd been ingrained for so long not to believe
programming.
Yeah. So I've gotten to the point where I don't get that nauseousness anymore, but I also don't necessarily quite believe it yet. You know what I mean? But that's growth. That's growth.
That is
So
Amazing.
that's my point, is listen to those. You may not believe it in the beginning, and that's okay. Keep listening to them.
Yeah, no,
That will come with time.
it will
Just like
with
we were
time.
programmed to not believe in ourselves,
Right.
we have to reprogram ourselves to
right.
love ourselves again, and that we're worthy of love. It's
That's right. And
Yes.
I'm getting good at that now. I can look at myself in the
Yes.
mirror and say, I love you. I love you. And I mean it. And I can see what looks like the Holy Spirit eyes looking back at me. And I know that
And
Yeah.
trusting yourself too.
yeah,
Trusting when you say
Well, that-
something that, oh,
Yes.
did I say that wrong? She trusted herself now.
yeah, it's getting a
Yeah.
lot better.
That's a huge issue I've struggled with my life, is just like trusting my own decision, or
Yes.
that's huge as well.
It is huge.
Definitely.
We should talk about that some, Sarah.
Yeah.
We should talk
So
about-
I always like to leave on a positive note, if that's okay.
Yes, I
I just have
agree.
this one thing I found, and I thought it was beautiful. I have to read that and end
Yeah.
with that. When you feel powerless, you feel hopeless. Once you realize that you have the power to change things in your life, you will not feel that you have to wait for people to be good to you. You have the power to choose a better option.
Like it.
Well,
Love it.
that's really
And
excellent.
we have the power within ourselves to choose a better option.
We
And
do.
some people might still be living in abusive relationships. I did for many, many years. So this might be your calling card, that you deserve a better option. You
Amen.
deserve that love and that care.
Somebody said,
And-
there's another one that says choose again. I think it's in the
Yeah.
Course in Miracles. But choose again,
I know we were told that that was not the right answer, and that we're not allowed to do that, but
Wow,
we
that's
are.
crazy.
We are.
We're allowed to divorce a toxic, abusive relationship. We
Yeah.
are allowed as women to leave that. It's okay.
Amen to
And
that. Sarah.
That is great.
Yeah.
Sarah. That's good advice.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm glad that you
Well,
ended on that beautiful positive note.
yeah, and I want to say a great interview. I'm glad you're whole enough and strong enough within yourself, because
you guys and the group really has it's just made me feel, I guess, really accepted, and made me continue to go forward with courage, because I had a lot harder time almost this time talking about some of these things.
Yeah.
Because they still affect me so much to this
Right.
day. It's just kind of getting more and more raw every time.
Right.
And that's okay. That's okay. All these feelings and emotions that are coming up, I'm learning it's all okay. It's all those are okay to feel. And we haven't been allowed to say that or acknowledge those forever.
No,
So I think
no.
that's huge too.
Sarah, what's the one group that you're a part of that's pretty big? What's the name?
Yes. So it's cult survivors from Worldwide Church of God and their offshoots. And that's the one on Facebook. And I mean, I find more support in there for the cult, especially there, more than therapy, just because that group understands.
They
And-
do. And you know what?
Yeah.
They take my videos, even though we do quote scripture here and there. And I think that's one of the rules, that they don't really like that. But I know that they know that we're not trying to preach, so they tolerate it. And I'm really thankful that they do. It's the same in the 6 Screens of the Watchtower program we're involved in. They don't want any preaching. They don't want any God stuff. But that's where our pain is lying, in that area. How can you not talk about it? Because that's where the problem lies. So long as we're not abusing it and trying to talk people into becoming this religion or that, or pushing something, I think they'll be okay. That's the idea. That take what you want and leave the rest, right? I really believe in that. We don't have to accept everything people say. We just take what we want, for what we're able to handle at least, and throw away the rest for now. Or put it on the shelf. I don't know. I'm gonna put that in the I don't know shelf. We don't have the black and white doesn't have to be our life anymore.
Yes.
You can say, I'm putting it in the gray area, which is put something on the shelf until later. I'll look at that some other time.
You know what? I really like that, Angela. We've really lived our life in black and white, and we are allowed to live it in color now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we can live it in color again. And and I don't think you can do that until you heal. And until I started therapy and started healing, I don't know. That's when I started unnumbing, and you just really start like, that was really messed up. And I will say, it took me, this is pretty recent that I even started talking to my therapist. So it took me over probably a year and a half before I even felt comfortable to discuss it.
Wow. Hey,
Wow.
by the way, I went to cult therapy.
Oh,
And that really helped me a lot. I want to say, for the record, I did do that.
Yeah.
And I did 12-step groups as well. Sorry about my cat, guys. I did 12-step groups for a good long time. A little bit of domestic violence and the Codependent No More book helped me tremendously by Melody Beatty. Really, really helped me. And the follow-up books that she did. I loved Rhonda Britton about overcoming fear. She's got the Fearless Living book. Here it is right here.
oh, wow. Okay.
Fearless Living, Fearless Loving, Live Without Excuses and Love Without Regrets. Rhonda Britton, Britten. Really, really good.
I'm going to write that down too. I like that.
But
Rhonda Britton.
Yeah, she helps you find the fear that's hidden, that's sabotaging you.
Mhm.
And that's a process. She has a process because I don't want to get off the subject, but her dad shot her mother when she was real young and aimed the gun at her, and her mother yelled, and he shot her more and then shot himself. So she had to feel like I never was able to defend my mother. I could have stepped up and maybe saved my mother. So she had all this
She
guilt.
was out there with the car out on the road, but she felt helpless, like I should have
She was a
done
child.
something.
Well, yeah, and she was a child. I'm sure there was nothing she could
Right.
have done, but
Oh, no.
she, I'm sure, carried that guilt her whole life.
She had to unravel it. So now she knows how to help people. She says everything's fear. If we're not succeeding, if things aren't going in our life, she helps you go underneath, find out what it is. I went to one of her seminars. I was a coward and a couple other things, and I was like, I was. And I had to face that. I had to actually wear it on my thing. I'm a coward. She did the show. She did a show called Starting Over. Do you remember that?
No.
With Yolanda
No.
Grant. She did a show called Starting Over. She got an Academy Award. And
Oh, wow.
it was about getting your voice. It was about fear. Man, women, they loved it. It was wonderful. It's still, you could still see it. But anyway, I won't get off. I want to stay with your closure there.
But again, Codependent No More by Melody Beatty, Beattie. I'll tell you what, that book saved my life. That one changed my life big time. And I want to tell you honestly, when I started reading that book, I hated it because everything about it was what I was experiencing. And it made me begin to realize that my family is so freaking dysfunctional because everything that she was saying was my family. I'm like, no, 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 no. I was so mad. And my body would go into trauma and I wanted to just go to sleep in the chair instantly. And I'm like, no, Angela, we're reading the rest of this chapter. We're not going to sleep until you do. And sometimes I was 3 hours because I was bound and determined I needed it and I had to do it. And it was a painful process, but it changed my whole life. And then boundaries. I love the book. There's several boundaries books. I don't know. I can't remember the name of the author on mine.
I think we all probably need to read a book on boundaries. It's something I still really struggle with, and I'm just starting to be able to set them. And I've learned, setting boundaries, it's not for other people, it's for ourselves.
Yes.
Just because you set them and tell them doesn't mean that they're going to listen and abide by those. But the thing is you still do it. I mean, you've told them, it's up to you whether they, I already let them know. So you really have to learn that it's for you. Yes. They're not going to, I don't know. Like people don't really respect your boundaries. You set them and you respect them. It's up to you to do that. That's what it's huge.
Hard.
I never understood that.
Right, because we never had any rights as human beings, right? To have an opinion of our own, children to be seen and not heard. So you don't think you have a right to have an opinion, but if we set a boundary, say, Mom, I don't want you to talk about the religion that I grew up in anymore. I don't believe it. I have a different belief system. I am an adult now. I'm 45 years old, and I don't want you to talk about this religion with me anymore. And then the very next minute, she acted like she never heard anything you had to say. And I was married to Dan when I set this boundary, and I literally just said, fine. And I turned my body around and I walked out her door and I walked around her property. It had lots of ponds and I was out for a long time. And then
Dan, for you, because there was no reason to stand there and continue that battle with her. No. It was, you'd set your boundary
Yes.
and she wasn't respecting it,
No.
and you turned around and left. You
I
did the
did.
exact you did
She'll hear
exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yes, and later on, she kept doing it, kept doing it, kept doing it. So I finally said, Mom, if you don't stop it, I'm gonna have to do something really drastic, like not talk to you for a long time. And I won't know how long that's gonna be, but I may have to do that. And guess what I did? I did have to. And
Yeah.
honestly, she still doesn't respect it. And
Yep.
she pretty much gives you the finger. And so I will not
Yeah.
respect it.
Yeah, and like I said, that's what I've learned is they really, most other people don't.
Point.
They
No.
it's up to you to respect the boundaries that you've
Yes.
set. And I never understood that. I would maybe set a boundary, but I just thought, oh, nobody respects me and they're walking all over me and like they're not, adhering to my boundaries. But set a boundary and you need to be the one to adhere to that because you've
Yes.
already told them how you feel.
So
You shouldn't have to keep repeating it over and
so
over.
you hang
So,
up or you
yeah.
walk out. Or,
Exactly.
and now, Dan, I'm going to tell you something because it's not just us guys. Dan was an ex-Jehovah's Witness that had his brothers calling him all the time, trying to get him back in the faith, in the truth, they called it. And so he would just be mesmerized. I would look at his eyes, they would go trauma on me, like glazed over, just kind of bugged out a little bit. And he'd be listening away. And I'm like, get off the phone. Don't listen to that. Please don't listen to that, Dan. It's you don't need that. I mean, you've come a long way. You've already been out 4 years. Please don't listen to that. And he wouldn't. He would listen and listen and listen like his life depended on it. But you know what? That's why it does matter. When we
It was hard to separate. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to say, I value me
They
now.
know.
I value my new values,
Yeah.
my new way
It
of
was like
seeing it.
stuck. It was like he didn't have a voice, and he would like, Danny, we have the truth, Jehovah, and I would just listen, like, like this.
Just in trauma, really.
It literally brought you back to like, being a kid almost. Like the
Back to
first
the
time I
kingdom.
clicked on something and it was Herbert's voice and he was really in doing something,
Yeah.
I immediately started like shaking. When I was like, oh no, I can't listen to that.
Yeah.
I still have not been able to re-listen to sermons of Herbert. He straight put me in a panic attack.
Right.
His voice alone does.
Yeah,
I
Andrew
know.
was saying,
Yeah, he's meaner than you know what. Sometimes he's a kind of guy.
Yeah.
But maybe you can remind yourself, maybe make us feel a little bit better and say, wait a minute, pedophile. He's a pedophile. You know that. Right?
No, he was absolutely. It did come out of him and his son.
Why should I ever have to ever listen to a pedophile? I should never have had to. He's an abuser.
So what that also did is, we'll talk about that a little in the next episode as well. But the fact that they were, the leader and the son were pedophiles,
yes,
that made our cult a breeding ground for sexual abuse.
Yes,
on top of the physical,
right,
with the blanket training and just all that.
Yeah, because
So
they were going to tell him to stop having affairs or anything. They were having affairs. So everything's, they might correct a little bit, but not much because they're doing it. So it was free.
Well, I'm pretty sure he changed the divorce doctrine when he divorced Loma and wanted to marry somebody 30 years younger than him or something, how convenient now that the divorce rule doesn't stick, that you've broken up so many families because you want to, marry some younger woman.
Yeah, because he got married to a younger woman, but then she divorced him. So, yeah.
Well, we have a lot to talk about. Sorry for the long-winded episode this time, but I still think
we'll try the next time to make it only an hour, guys. We promise we will set the timer. But anyway, hopefully they'll listen to the end because that's
lots of important information in this one, I believe, and tips and resources. So
next time, if we make it too long, they won't listen because it's just too dang long, and so they'll cut it off. But that's why we'll try always not to go ever over an hour. We'll make it for one time only, so we will work on that.
Even if we need to do more episodes, that's better. Sounds good. All right.
Thank you,
Sarah.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for
Bye.
Bye.